All right, it says we're live. I just wanted to welcome everybody to the show. If this is your first time watching, thanks for coming out and checking us out. We do this every Thursday, same time, 8:30 Central Time, 9:30 Eastern Time, and where we are out here trying to help you guys, and we can even bring in a special guest today. And if you look down here, I don't know, maybe it's down here on your guys, but that is our live panel here, and we're going to let them introduce themselves real quick. And we'll start with Christopher Allen Designs. Go ahead and say hi, Christopher.
Hi everyone, my name is Christopher with Christopher Allen Designs, and I'm going to put my lower third down here in 1 second. It's not popping up for some reason, but it will have my YouTube information on it for all of my tutorials, and you can also go to ChristopherADesigns.com to find my blog.
All right, yeah, we all have YouTube channels. Check them out. Christopher does excellent video tutorials, projects, and everything. Next is Michelle Mybell. Go ahead, Michelle.
Hi everyone, I'm Michelle. I'm design team leader for ScrappyDew, and you can find my blog at michellemybellcreations.com.
All right, yep, Michelle's great help with ScrappyDew and with all the support, very knowledgeable with all that she does. Next is Ken's Kreations. Go ahead, Ken.
Hey everyone, my name's Ken, and I personally promise in the future our show will start at the right time. So thank you all for being patient. But you can find my blog over at www.creativeken.blogspot.com, and there will be a YouTube link where you can find all of my YouTube videos, which is slowly turning into a lot of reviews. So I guess I've become a review type person. So check it out.
All right. Last but not least is our very, 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 very special guest, and hopefully that's why all two of you guys are watching right now. And it's Kay Hall, better known as Clever Someday. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Kay.
Hi, I'm Kay, and I am the owner of the Clever Someday blog. We're going on for almost 5 years now in January at Clever Someday. WordPress.cleversomeday.com. And I also have a YouTube channel with a lot of tutorial videos, and also you can follow me on Twitter at Clever Someday.
All right, yeah. Now, if you guys are watching this on the event page, you can see all of her details as far as YouTube channels and stuff. It should be on the side. I don't know how you guys are viewing it, but check out the side, check out the description. Her links are right there. You can check that out. Now, if you guys want to participate, this is a live show, so you can go ahead and comment. We're tracking on YouTube. We're tracking on the event page, and just feel free to ask a question, anything, and we can actually bring it up. So for example, we can bring up comments like this. Thank you, Ken. Obviously, it's because we were fashionably late, and Ken was letting you know that we're starting now. Okay, so we can bring these comments in. Okay. Now, if you're watching this later on YouTube, of course we can't do it because it's not live then, but we will still go back and respond. All right. So, Ken, we got some got any Cricut news going on?
Not too much. Obviously, there were some minor updates. A lot of people in the groups already know that Cricut went through and updated some enhancements, so they're not classifying it as a update where you had to install a new firmware update or anything like that. But a lot of it was they enhanced shaped projects. They're supposed to not have as many shockwave errors. It's supposed to be faster, and it pretty much, to my testing, did all of that. There's still some shockwaves. The shockwave, though, is supposedly if you wait a few seconds, it should go away, which has been obviously my experience from the start. But they are still aware that there's still some minor issues with some saved projects not coming up, and they've also improved a little bit of the calibration process. And also for people, the big one for me was when doing print and cut. If you had an image get stuck on the mat, you would have to refresh the page. Now if you just hit the reprint page button and hit cancel, it will get your machine back on track to where you don't have to cancel that project. And I encountered that yesterday when making my frame. It got stuck on a mat and just gave me that spinning wheel. I hit reprint page, hit cancel, and it worked fine. So that's a good one to know. And then the only other news is today they released a pretty cool cartridge, at least I think it was, which was called Days and Dates. And it is all days and dates, but it's in cool fashion. So it is part of the subscription. If you are a subscriber, make sure to check it out because it's a really cool cartridge.
All right, so I'm also noticing that chalkboard in the background. So what's this all about? Got some new stuff on the wall. What you got? If you can move your head, what's that? What's that stuff? All right, so we got projects and YouTube videos. So are you blank right now? You don't know what to do next?
Yeah. So I made the board. That was step one. Step two is putting stuff on the board now, so that's coming. I do have a whole bunch of videos. I'm really excited. As everyone knows, Christopher and I are beta testing the iPad app, so I can't wait to do a video on that because the app is absolutely amazing in my opinion. It's fast. It's what we can do on this iPad is amazing. So I can't wait to do that video. And then I'm doing the new silhouette cameo review once I get that in. I have a few more videos, so I just need to actually, maybe by the end of the show, I will have something written on that board. You never know. Could be a surprise.
Yeah. Well, you can always steal some stuff from Christopher. He's got great ideas.
Oh, half of my videos are based on Christopher design.
Everyone else does. Why not?
Oh, yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to Kay. You're a special guest here. So she's going to show us some. What are you going to show us tonight?
Well, I'm going to talk about tracing, which has sort of become an area of expertise for me. I don't know, by accident, I guess. When we started out with Inkscape tracing way back in the days before SCAL could even trace, there were a lot of tutorials, a lot of step-by-steps, but they didn't do us a lot of good because the tracing depends on what the image looks like or what kind of image and that kind of thing. And so way back when, I put together a visual index of different tutorials for Inkscape, and people found that very helpful. Fast forward 4 or 5 years to the silhouette, same kind of thing. A lot of step-by-steps, not all that helpful because it really, the steps for one image don't work for all images. So I set out to really study what was going on with the software and how it worked, and I put together what is an 8-part series called Tracing Without Tears. I learned a lot in the process, not just about Silhouette Studio, but about tracing in general and how it works, and so that's what I want to talk about a little bit tonight.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, like I remember when I just first got into SCAL and I was wanting to do some tracing, Kay's website was the one that I went to, honestly, and this is the I'm going to screen share this one real quick because I always, people have questions about what's the best way to trace. I always send them to the, this page right here, and very thorough, and it's very, I guess it's easy to understand from her descriptions on this. So I always used to send people this page, Kay. Very, very, very good page.
An oldie but a goodie.
It is. It is. So yeah, feel free to share your screen there, Kay, and walk us through some stuff.
All right, we'll get going on this.
And
let's see here.
And I may jump in with some questions from the audience, as well as me and Ken and Christopher and Michelle can as well.
Okay. All right, let's see. All right, I'm not finding what I want. Here we go. That's what I want. Okay. The first question that most people have is, why do you have to trace? What is it? What does it mean? And basically, you can think of it like when you're a kid and you have these little coloring sheets and they have the little dotted lines and they told you where to cut. We have to do the same thing with the machine. We have to tell it where to cut. It can't just look at a picture and know where to cut. You have to tell it, and so that's what tracing is. And the computer needs it in a particular language. That language is a path, and the path is written in a particular mathematical style. It would be something like this with shapes. circles and triangles that are a certain amount apart. It can be written as a mathematical expression, and that's something that the cutter can follow. It just simply tells the blade where to go. But most of the images that we get outside of your cutting software, out in the real world, most of our images are not ready to cut. They're made up of pixels, these little tiny squares, and they would be defined in a grid with a white pixel in the first square on the first row and a red pixel on the third row on the second column, and so on. And we have to have a way to translate this bitmap or raster images into the vector images so that we can cut them with our machines, so our machines basically will know what to do with them. So that's what tracing is, and that's why we have to do it. So tracing is also called auto tracing or vectorizing or cleaning up. And when do you have to do it? Well, it depends on whether you have a bitmap or a vector to start with. And the easiest way in a lot of cases is just to look at the file extension. And so I've got just a little chart here that shows what some of the file extensions for vectors are versus some of the file extensions for bitmaps. SVGs, the most popular vector format for cutting. DXF is another one. Studio files, GSD files, Adobe Illustrator, EPS, CorelDRAW are all vectors, and your TrueType and OpenType fonts are all vectors. Your bitmaps would include things like your JPEG, your PNG, your TIFF, your BMP, your GIFs, and your Photoshop. Understanding the difference between vectors and bitmaps is really the key to going from beginner to advanced in cutting. It's the way to become more efficient at finding and preparing images. And one thing to understand is that vectors are more, one way you could look at it is that vectors are more valuable. They cost more, they're harder to find, they're harder to create, and they don't have to be traced. So when you trace one, you're wasting effort and you're also degrading the image, because every time you do a trace, it's a lossy process. There's actually some degradation that goes on. It's not a perfect conversion. Well, it'd be similar to making a photocopy. So you never want to trace a vector. When I hear something about somebody tracing a vector or tracing an SVG, it's like nails on the blackboard to me. So you really don't want to do that unless it's absolutely necessary. So the biggest determiner of how well your trace is going to come out is how your image looks to start with. And so this is the ideal image, which of course you never have the ideal, but your ideal image was going to be large in size, and by size I mean the pixel dimensions, 500 by 500, 1000 by 1000. The bigger the better. You want it to be clear with crisp edges. You want separate solid areas of flat color. You want high contrast, especially between adjacent colors. You want fewer colors or brightness levels. You don't want it to be too detailed. And if you have a choice, PNG format is a little bit better because it has less artifacting and also the transparent background a lot of times. When you start talking about photos, you have even more challenges, because now you have to get something that's many colors down to 2 colors, and you need it to have detail that the cutter can cut. It needs to be feasible to weed, and it still needs to be recognizable. So that's a whole nother level of challenge. And again, you want to start with a good image. Just like the others, it needs to be large in size. If you're doing people, you want a close-up of the person's face. You want a clear focus, solid background or soft focus background if possible, high contrast across the image, no extraneous details, and professional black and white photos work best. I'm going to show examples of all this. This is just some preliminary stuff that we need to get through. It's going to make a lot more sense when I start showing examples. The last type of tracing that I want to talk about is centerline tracing. And most of you know that when you trace, normally when you trace line art, you get a double line, and that's because the software is tracing both sides of the line. And a lot of times that's fine, that's what you need, but sometimes you want the single line. Say if you're going to be sketching or drawing or writing or engraving, or you want to do a rhinestone path. So that's a whole nother type of tracing, and Make the Cut is the only one of the cutting programs that actually has that. But you can also do it in Adobe Illustrator or Corel Draw, and there's also some online apps that will do that. So that's just the sort of the groundwork. So I want to show you, start looking at a couple of programs and how this works. When we look at an image, it's pretty obvious to our human brains where the cut lines would be. But to a computer, that's a pretty daunting job, and so the programmer has to decide how they're going to go about that. Were they going to look at the brightness? Are they going to look at the colors? Are they going to look at transparency? And how are they going to decide which pixels to include, and whether to let you pick a range or cherry pick a color, and they've got to come up with all that strategy. And all the packages that we're going to look at have all taken different tacks on that, and you'll see that there's pros and cons, strengths and weaknesses to all of them. You can accomplish the same task in very different ways. So the first one I want to look at is Silhouette Studio. And this is a test image that just is good for showing how tracing works. Silhouette Studio only traces using brightness, and that is limited by the threshold value. So I've just got these gradient bars here to show how this works. And one nice thing about Silhouette Studio is you do get a live preview on the trace, so you can see how your changes are going to affect it. In Silhouette Studio, what's going to be included in the trace are these yellow areas. So if I move the threshold, you'll see the yellow move. And what you'll notice here is that you can select the left end or the dark end with a low threshold, or you can go with a higher threshold and you could select the light end by the process of elimination. But what you can't do is select this area in the middle by itself. So that's a limitation of this method where you choose just by threshold. The other thing that you notice about this is that it can't distinguish between red, blue, and green. And if we put it down here on the flag, you'll see that it can't tell the difference between red, blue, and green. So I can't trace this flag in Silhouette Studio because it's colorblind. So if you've heard me say that Silhouette Studio is colorblind, this is what I mean. It's all or nothing. It's as far as it can tell, this is all the same shade of gray. So that is an example of what threshold is and how a brightness without color program would work. Now I'm going to go to another one. I've got an airplane here, and Silhouette Studio has a drag and drop, which is really handy because I can put this on the mat and not have to do anything to it. I don't have to go through any dialog boxes or whatever. Now, I just got through saying that it's colorblind and it can't trace color images, can't tell the difference between colors, but surprisingly, for the vast majority of images, that doesn't even come into play. You look at this and you think, well, that's a color image, I can't trace it, but actually all I need in this is the black, and that works fine with the default trace from Silhouette Studio, I get the black, and then I would just separate my pieces, release compound path, and start coloring each piece according to the color that was in this. So even though it can't tell the colors, it can, because this one has black in between, it's not a problem. It just traces the black and it works fine. So the other thing that Silhouette Studio cannot do is trace by transparency. So we already mentioned that the ping image has transparent background. This image has, I'll have to put it on a background so you can even see it. All right, this is a tag that is like notebook paper in a bracket type shape. So when we try to trace it in Silhouette Studio, we can't trace it because it can't tell the white in the image from the white in the background, and we have a problem with that. So that's another limitation. However, there is a workaround, and that is to just go ahead and trace it on the background. Because one thing that's unique about Silhouette Studio is that it traces anything that's underneath that window. It doesn't trace by an object that's selected. It traces by anything that's underneath the window. So this is really handy for workarounds like tracing by transparency, as I've shown here. Also, if you have a trace with a broken line or something, you can go in and fix the line with just drawing in a line with the drawing tools and then trace over the top of it. So that's a really handy feature to have that the other programs don't have. So the next thing I want to talk about is the photos. And as I mentioned before, the brightness scans work pretty well on a high-end professional black and white photograph like this one of Audrey Hepburn here. But on your day-to-day snapshots, they don't work so good when you're just using the brightness scan. So Silhouette Studio actually has another tool for this that is very useful, and that's the high pass filter. And what the high pass filter does is it's an edge finder. It actually compares the pixels to each other around it and then gives you the edge. And so you can go in here and play with this. But the edge filter doesn't do such a great job by itself either. So that's not too exciting because that's still not a great trace. But if we combine the two types of traces and we go in and do our threshold trace, and I'm not spending a lot of time on this, I'm just trying to give you an idea here, then you see we've got two traces that really don't do it justice. But when we put them together, we get the best of both. And you do have to line it up just right so it looks right, and I'm not. But anyway, there you can see that when you use the two techniques together, you can get a good likeness that's easy to weed and not too hard to work with. So this is a technique that I developed for Silhouette Studio because it has the high pass filter, which is again the edge finder, and that is also useful for removing objects from the background sometimes, like my lizard here. I don't know if you can see that, but if you tried to trace him without a high-pass filter, you're just going to get kind of an odd selection there. But with the high-pass filter on, you can get a nice trace of just that lizard by himself. So the high-pass filter is useful for certain things, and it is specific to Silhouette Studio. Of these options, Silhouette Studio is the only one that has it. So while Silhouette Studio did justifiably give rise to a video series called Tracing Without Tears, it can do some pretty cool things that the other ones can't. So I want to move on to Cricut Design Space. And I've heard many of you say that there's no tracing in Design Space, and the fact that you think that is a credit to the brilliant job that they've done making it painless and transparent to the user. But as we said before, the die cutter has to have the instructions translated for them, and the way that's done in Design Space is it's called cleanup. So if we're going to do that, we click on Upload an Image, and I got a JavaScript error. Okay, try that again. All right, I'm going to log out and log back in, see if that works. I am having a lot of trouble with Cricut Design Space, but I have not had that problem before. So all right, sorry about that. Okay, so in Cricut Design Space, the bitmaps are done under the basic upload, which again is just, brilliant marketing, because really the vectors should be basic and the others should be not basic, but they want to make it as painless as possible, so they call this basic. If we look at our flag, this will give us a good example of how Cricut Design Space handles images, and I haven't been able to tell the difference really between these three. Maybe Christopher and Ken can tell me that. But Cricut Design Space can tell the difference between colors. It uses this to exclude colors one at a time. So it's a little bit different than most programs that use the eyedropper to select colors. This uses the eyedropper just to eliminate colors. So if I click here, it finds the red. If I click here, it finds the green. If I click here, it finds the blue. The problem is that you have to do it one at a time. You would have to do this image, you have to import this image 3 times, once for the red, once for the green, once for the blue, or you could go ahead and get it into Cricut Design Space, make 3 copies, and use the hide contour. So a little bit awkward to use, but it is able to tell the colors apart. If we look at our the airplane image that we just looked at in Silhouette Studio, you'll see the same thing. If we wanted to get just the black outline, we would have to click on all of these areas. And then that black outline wouldn't be that useful to us because we can't break it apart once we get it into Cricut Design Space. So all the other die cutting programs not only let you break up an image once you get it in, but they also let you do point-by-point editing, that kind of thing. So the ease of use that Cricut has done a beautiful job at does come at the price of eliminating flexibility. And as a result, you're really not going to be able to do much of your tracing in Design Space. An image like this would be too cumbersome, and so you're going to want to go to Inkscape or another program to do it in. Design Space can also trace by transparency. You may have noticed on that last image that the outside of the plane was excluded automatically. So if we do something like our tag, that was a real problem for Silhouette Studio, it's basically instantaneous. We don't have to do anything in Cricut Design Space. It already knew that what was transparent we wanted excluded and what was not transparent we wanted cut. So that is really a nice feature that's particularly helpful for print and cut.
Okay. Okay, can I interject just real quick?
Sure.
With the print then cut, the trace with transparency does not work. I want to let everyone know that there actually is a warning down in the bottom that it says that the trace with transparency will not work. I only know this because I just experienced it today.
That's something new then?
I guess so. I actually just saw it today, that it says at the bottom that I think the bitmap as well is included in that. I just saw it literally about 20 minutes ago, so that's why it was just fresh in my mind. Yeah, it was something. There's actually a warning down at the bottom.
I wonder what happens if we try this.
Yeah, because that's something new. I haven't seen that before yet either.
Here,
So
I'll pull it up.
new.
Let's see if
Let's see what happens, because that's. I mean, Christopher, Ken, you showed that in your video, a lot, that was, made it so easy, was the transparency.
Yeah, that was one of the main things I hit home, is the fact that if you download the right file, it hits it home for you. So it's interesting.
Now that's just a warning. It's not to say that it does not still work and it will still not transpose over to the cutting mat, but it just is something that I noticed earlier today, which I thought was very odd because I had never run into that issue before and had never seen. And then as soon as you started talking about the transparency, it immediately popped into my mind that I thought it was odd that warning did come up for me. I was actually uploading a couple of files to try out the different print then cut with some different individuals that make files, obviously because everybody makes their files a little bit differently. So I kind of wanted to see, what the difference was between the files, and I just thought it was very odd that warning came up for me whenever I hit the upload image, and I believe it was whenever I hit the upload image. I think it was for no, it wasn't for vector. It was for the, which would be what it says the right-hand side. It set it on the simple image. Whenever I put it in, one moment, I'm just trying to find it real quick so that while we're on the topic, at least I can show it before I forget about it again. Okay, so let's see if I can find it. Oh, for some reason. If you just want to continue, Kate, and then once I find it, maybe I can just jump in real quick again.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, so when it comes to the photos, this is another place that Cricut Design Space really isn't designed for. But just to show you what it would look like here, let's zoom in on this. If we go to the advanced options and we go to, basically when you're doing something out of vinyl, you're taking it down to one color. So we reduce colors to 2 colors, and then what we would have to do is we would have to go in and get rid of all these little parts that we didn't want. And we'd have to zoom in and get, spend a lot of time on this. And after we did, we would get the same sort of poor results that we had that I showed you in Silhouette Studio when we just used the brightness, because this is again just tracing by brightness, and so you only get half of the information. You get the light and dark of it, but you don't get the edges. So this is obviously not something you're really going to want to do in Cricut Design Space. You're going to want to go to Photoshop or to Stencilgram or even to Silhouette Studio and pre-process your photo. So Design Space has some really nice features behind a brilliantly simple interface, but it's just not going to be practical for many of the kind of images that you're going to want to trace, with the possible exclusion of the print and cut. If the transparency is working, it really is nice for the print and cut when you're only trying to trace that outline and you can go in with an image that's transparent. Otherwise, that's very easy. But on these coloring book type images and that kind of thing, you're going to be much better off tracing first in Inkscape or somewhere and making an SVG and bringing it in so you can use it in different pieces. So the next one I want to show is Make the Cut.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's Christopher again. Before you shut down the Design Space, if you go into the upload image, and it's under the vector portion. If you just click the vector upload and you just, you go under that little eye, see the little blue eye there? And if you highlight it, it says it there. That's where I found it.
Okay. I think that's something different. I think that is when you include a transparency, a gradient fill, or a bitmap fill into an SVG, you're actually putting a bitmap file inside an SVG.
Okay.
And so I think that's what that's saying, is that you can't do that.
Okay.
Like
it was actually more of a question, I guess, because I was confused as to.
No, that's a good find. That's a good find.
Okay.
I'll have to look at that some more, but I think that's for files. For instance, if you drew something in Inkscape and gave it a gradient fill, like from fully transparent to partially transparent in Inkscape, that's like a really advanced SVG file, and I think what it's saying is it can't handle those kind of things.
Okay.
And within an SVG file, something that either has a color or not, it can't also have transparency and other characteristics. But okay, we'll see. And this one worked. So
for a regular image, just so we can clarify to everyone out there, with a regular image, it will allow you to find that edge around there. But for something that we may never ever even need to use or experience with the SVGs, it's not going to put that through. As soon as you said transparency and gradient and started saying all these terms, that just popped right into my head, and I was like, I better find it to make sure that that's something that we can do. So I'm glad that we clarified that, and I clarified it because I will get in big trouble if I say you can't do something, but you can.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I wouldn't have wanted to get too far into something we couldn't do. All right, so I want to look at Make the Cut, if I can find it. And you may have heard that Make the Cut is the granddaddy of all the tracing programs, and it's got the best stuff going, and it is very impressive. It has just about every kind of trace capability you could possibly want, with the exception of the edge tracing. The high-pass filter that Silhouette Studio has, Make the Cut does not have, but just about everything else that you can think of, any way you would want to trace, Make the Cut has. So actually does have drag and drop, but I'm using it from a Mac, so I do not have drag and drop. I'm using the Mac beta version, which runs under under an emulator, so that's why I don't have drag and drop to show you. Okay, so here's my airplane, and if I wanted to trace it with just the black, like I did with Silhouette Studio, to make it look like a coloring book image, I could go way down on the threshold and apply the changes, and there you see, and this is really cool, it's not a live preview because you have to keep clicking the Apply Changes button. But you get all your settings here, and then you can actually see your image on the mat. So it's really got good visibility. So that is a very easy trace to do. But what we could also do is a color scan. And if we say we want to trace it in, I think it takes about 10 colors to get everything. Maybe more than that. Let's see. Okay, got all those colors, the different colors of the window and everything. Then it would actually give me the trace and the colors that it came in, ready to go. The other thing that Make the Cut has this despeckling, which if I pulled these apart, you would have seen. Let me just do this. Go back to 2. If I pull some of these pieces apart, you'll see that I've got to put that first. Sometimes you get noise in here. There you go. See, I don't know if you can see all those little pieces. But if instead we had traced with the despeckling on, we would have gotten rid of all of those. And that despeckle is really helpful for for photographs and things. I would love it if every tracing program had that. Color scans. I don't use Make the Cut every day, and I know that this image is hiding off my mat here somewhere. There it is. Well, but you'll see I don't have any of that extra speckles that I had before. Everything's nice and crisp. So I've got settings there that are really advanced and really handy. If I bring my flag in, I'll show you another cool thing about Make the Cut. Not only can I do 3 colors at a time, but I can cherry pick a color. I can click here and then I get an eyedropper and I can trace just the red, or I can trace just the green, or I can trace just the blue. So in Make the Cut I can do multiple passes where I get all the colors at once, or I can get one color at a time from the image, or I can get the range of threshold. I can basically do just about any kind of thing I can imagine. I can also do transparency. So if we bring the tag in again, we can go to alpha and apply changes, and there's the trace. Very easy to do. So if we look at our photo, this is my husband, by the way, and he's been a very good sport for letting me keep putting his photo up here. If we trace this, we get a similar result to what we've been getting before. The despeckle would help us a little bit to give us a nice something smoother to cut in vinyl, but still, you know, he's got the raccoon eyes, and it's just really not flattering, and not very much detail. So again, without the edge trace, it's not great for doing vinyl. But Make the Cut has another feature for photographs, this grayscale scans that you can use to make like paper portraits, and you can do this in either color or in grayscale, and you could really get a cool image of somebody. This works really good for pets and things too that are hard to get a good vinyl rendering of. So this is kind of an interesting feature that Make the Cut has. Cut Select can also do it in the color, but the grayscale is exclusive to Make the Cut. So while you can't really do the one color for vinyl, you do have this feature for photographs in Make the Cut. So one more thing that Make the Cut it has that's just fantastic is we talked about before the centerline tracing. So here I've got a ship. This is from Bird's Cards, where she has a lot of really cool digistamps that have very thin lines. But if I could zoom in here, you would see that I have double lines for each of these, and I need single lines. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and import this and Make the Cut, and then I'm going to look for thin paths. It's under, let's see, I have to select it first. Shape Magic Advanced Thin Paths. And then look at that. Ready to go for pens. This is for pens or engraving or something. I can zoom all the way in here and you can see that that is just one single line. And that took one keystroke to do that. So that's a really nice feature of Make the Cut that the others don't have. So I've thrown you a ton of information, but I just wanted to show you what some of the different strategies are that you can trace by color, you can trace by brightness, you can trace by transparency, you can trace by range, you can cherry pick colors. I'm really happy that I have all these different programs because I've got something that'll trace just about anything. But you can see that each of the programs has its strengths and weaknesses, and that one is not necessarily better than the other. For any given image, there may be one that's better, but across the board, each one has some things that are better than others. So I'm going to go back to the Hangout and see if there's any questions on the tracing part. If I can figure out how to get back there.
This one came in back when you're going through your keynote slide on, I guess, trying to find that perfect trace, or so she asked the question, she has I guess she has the silhouette, and she says that she uses she says, I use an SVG and SCAL. I don't have any other way to switch over to the Cuts a lot, to go from SCAL to Cuts a lot. I'm sorry. It says, is that why tracing a silhouette file does not always look perfect?
Yes.
And she says, I use the SVG and SCAL, so I don't have any other way to switch over. I guess the sill on here, I guess it's not showing up all the way. Sill to SCAL. So.
Right. What you're doing is you're taking the sill file, which is a vector, and I'm assuming you're screen capturing it, which makes it a bitmap, and then you're tracing it. So you are doing two transfers, both of which lose a little bit of quality. So that's not an ideal situation. One thing that can help that is to, instead of doing a screen capture, which is screen resolution, is to do a print to PDF, save that as a JPEG. You get 6 to 10 times the resolution. And as you remember from the early slide, the bigger the image you trace, the better trace you're going to get. So you can go from a 72 dot per inch image to a 600 dot per inch image, and that's one way that you'll get a much better trace. And for most things, that's going to be fine. Where you really get in trouble is like text, because with beautiful fonts, every swirl and every curve and every bend is designed to look beautiful, and when you start cutting those corners and rounding things off, it really loses quality. So the solution to that is to use a higher resolution bitmap to start with by using print to PDF.
I guess that's a good tip. I never even thought about that. Trezek here. I mean, she came in and she was asking, what are we doing? So I sort of answered, let her know that we're going through all the various programs and tracing. And I guess she wants to know why would anyone want to trace?
Well, if you're happy with all the images that you already have in your software, then you don't have to. And I think it's probably a really good idea to start out not tracing, because when you get used to what the images that Cricut or Silhouette put out, you inherently learn what cuts well and what doesn't. When we see people come in and bring, they'll bring a cartoon image of Shrek, and it's all shaded and it has all this detail, and the first thing they want to cut is just not a cuttable image. That's because they don't have the experience of looking at what professional cutting files look like. So by looking at regular professionally done cut files first, you'll be a better tracer, because you'll know what traces well. But after you do that and you decide you want to do your own thing, you want your logo for your business or your mascot for your kids' t-ball team or whatever, then you're going to need to trace so that you can get that image into a cuttable format.
And then we also have this one from Vicky Woody. She asks, what's the best way for tracing Google Images?
Well, the first thing you want to do on Google Images is make sure that you have the largest one. And Google Images is phenomenal because it has Google Image Search, where you can actually drag and drop an image into it, and it will find that image and find the biggest one for you. So a lot of times when people show me something they want to trace, the first thing I do is go look for a better one, and Google Images is just fantastic for that. So I want to make sure you have the biggest one you can, and if you have a choice between a shaded image and a coloring book image, you want to take the coloring book image, and then you're going to just follow the steps that we've talked about, or for whichever kind of image it is. If it's a photograph, for instance, then you have to use the steps that you would use on a photograph. If it's a clip art, you would use either color or black and white, depending on what software you use and what the image looks like.
Teresa, I guess this is the follow-up question. She said that she uses the Snip It tool, and is that as good as a PDF? And isn't that just like doing a screenshot?
Right. Snip It is still screen resolution 72 dots per inch. It's not any better. It's the same as print screen or any other screen capture. So Snip It tool is not as good as PDF.
Okay. And Windows users, to get a print to PDF feature, what's out there for print to PDF, or is that something that comes on Windows 7 nowadays? Do you know?
I've been recommending PDF Creator from pdfforge.org. There are dozens of them, and Bullzip and PDF Creator both allow you to save directly to JPEG or PNG in addition to PDF, so you don't have to take the PDF and convert it to something else. You can actually save to JPEG or PNG right there. So that's why I like those two, and the latest versions of Bullzip have started limiting your resolution and stuff, and PDF Creator still lets you set your own resolution and stuff, so that's why I recommend that one. You need to be careful when all of them will try to load junk on your computer because they're free and that's how they make their money. So
the shareware.
Yeah.
Now Max will do this natively, correct?
Right.
Okay.
Right. Max will do this natively, and then you can convert to JPEG or PNG in the preview app that is the same app that the PDF will open in.
All right. Vicky Woody, she has a personal question for you. Do you have a cutting machine? If so, which one?
I have several cutting machines. I have a couple of Cricut Expressions, and I have a Cameo, and I have a Silhouette SD.
All right. Leslie added a tip here. This is when you were when you were talking about make the cut. You can also bring in the whole image in and use your pencil tool and sketch around it and get the edges that way for difficult tracing in MTC. So I guess an extra tip from Leslie. And let's see, going through some more. Ken was amazed by the photo tracing in the Silhouette Studio that you did of your husband, on how you combined the two with the high pass and the
really proud of that. It was something I developed. It's been hijacked for a number of other places since then, including on official Silhouette videos, but I figured out.
And probably one of Ken's videos and Christopher Allen's videos. No, I'm just joking.
No, you're perfectly free to use it. I would appreciate a shout out, however.
I'm actually glad to see how to do that, because I've always used a program online. I actually have a video tutorial where I show how to do that, but I used a website that did it automatically for me. So I'm glad to see that, because you can't really change much with the online converter, whereas you can obviously change a lot of things with this technique.
Yeah.
And then the last one here, I think, because I don't see any more new ones. Ken says Kay is my blog idol.
Thank you, Ken.
So yeah. But all right, I think that's all the questions that I see on this one. And we'll, like I said, guys, if you have questions, type them down below. YouTube. Actually, I did see one on Facebook. I got a quick email. I guess she's watching on Facebook as well. It says, love, love, love MTC. Learned a few things tonight. Thin tracing. Can't wait to try that out. So cool feature with the thin paths and make the cut. And you'd be able to do a pencil drawing just using your cutter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Kay, back to you.
Okay, I wanted to talk about fonts as my other really thing that I'm passionate about. I have been a font lover for a long time, and in fact, I had one of the very first free font websites on the web back in the dark ages, 1996 or 7, and I love fonts, and I love to use them, and I have on my webpage, I have a fonts resource page specifically for die cutting. So if you come to my website, cleversomeday.wordpress.com, and you click on this fonts tab, you will get to just a long listing of things. The first group is die cutting specific fonts and dingbats. These are things that people who are die cutters have made specifically for other die cutters. Then you have just some other listings that I've done. I have 10 great free welding fonts for die cutters, 10 more great free welding fonts for die cutters, 10 great free dingbats for die cutting, that kind of thing. Some stuff on fonts that match Cricut cartridges, which is not as popular as it used to be, but that used to be a big thing people wanted to know. The next section that gets a lot of hits and people ask about a lot is the pen and marker fonts. We just talked about how to use pens you want the single line, and that's a problem with fonts as well. So what because fonts by definition are closed path, which means they have to have a double line. A true type font or an open type font can't be a single line, but if you use a thin enough font, you can fake it. And so I've got a lot of information on that, where to find thin fonts, a lot of people's lists of thin fonts, that kind of thing, how to create single line text, the online tools that you can use to do the centerline trace that you can use for text. This is really popular right now, the chalkboard art and that kind of thing. There's fonts that fill themselves in with a pen, that kind of stuff, all kinds of. I've just collected a bunch of resources here over the years and get a lot of questions. If you like to use a pen in your die cutter, this is a good resource for you. I've got all kinds of other things here. One thing that's really been big lately in the last few weeks especially is there's been a change in the way one or two font designers code their fonts so that they can now be used in Silhouette Studio. Well, they didn't do it for Silhouette Studio. They did it for other programs, for Character Map. And Laura Worthington was one of them. She has the Samantha font that a lot of you have heard of, a lot of you bought. And so I have, actually, in the very top post is about Samantha and how, and I have 3 videos. I have one on how to use it on a Windows machine with Silhouette Studio, one on how to use it on a Mac with Silhouette Studio, and how to use it in Windows with Cricut Design Space. And this is something brand new, because before about April, you always had to have Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW to use these fancy flourishes and things in these fonts. And now that some of these designers are changing their coding, they're kind of opening the key, giving us the key to use these fonts to their fullest in lower level software to use it every day. So it's opening up a whole new world for us, as we're opening up a whole new market for them. And it's, if you're a font lover, this is big exciting news. And so it's been a real popular part of my blog as we figured out how to do this. The other thing I wanted to show you is that I have a couple of fonts on here, dingbats that I've designed. I'm not an artist, I'm an engineer, so I can't draw anything myself, but every once in a while I come up with an idea. There's a font that I designed. It's called Border Bits, and I made it specifically for wrapping to a path in Silhouette Studio. And I will show you how that works. If I draw a path, and I just start typing some characters, and I change that to the Border Bits font.
I think your screen share went away.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. And in the meantime, Pam Connor, she said, I just bought the Samantha font this morning. She said, it's all your fault, but she gets it.
Well, I hope you enjoy it. She's would not be the first person that's blame me.
And can you give me the PDF that you said for Windows users? Which one do you recommend? Someone was asking for like a direct link, and I'm going to type it in there.
It's called PDF Creator.
PDF Creator. Okay.
And it is PDF Forge, FORGE .org.
Okay. Gotcha. We will put that up for you guys on the event page, and then we'll put it in the description as well if you guys are watching this on YouTube. You just have to you'll have to refresh your browser on the YouTube side of it.
Okay.
I'll stick it in there.
Okay. Thanks, Michelle.
All right.
This question came up there, Kay, real quick. She said that she bought the Samantha font, but the glyphs don't show in SCAL. Is there anything that I'm missing?
I do not believe that SCAL supports that. I have not figured out a way to do that. You can see them in and Make the Cut. You probably can paste them into SCAL into the text entry area, but they do not. SCAL only shows the main keyboard characters in the keypad area.
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, there is not a way to do that in.
Is that something Brandon would have to update in order to fix, I guess?
Yeah, he would have to add more characters. Okay, have you got me now?
I sure do.
Okay, so back to border bits. I've got several series of things. A, B, C, D is grass. So in Silhouette Studio, you can wrap text, but you can't wrap images. And so what I did was I made a font with images so that you could kind of cheat and wrap images because now they're text. So just depending on what you have here, and I don't even remember what the characters are, but I've got all kinds of little like a decal edge and some, let's see, I keep typing that. Got some scallops, so you can use it to make scalloped shapes, and you can space them and do lots of things with them because now you can treat them like text.
That's pretty neat.
You
made this, right?
Yes, I made this myself.
Oh man, you have a tutorial on how to make your own fonts too?
I do actually.
So that way everyone can learn how to do this.
Right, everyone can learn how to do that. This is the border bits. This is some pictures here of things that I've made with it. And you can download it. It's free here on my blog. There's also a video that goes with it on how to use, it's called How to Be a Power User, a text-to-path power user, and so it shows you how to do all these things. But these are some of the characters that are in it. There is also, under my fonts resource page, a section under other font links on how to make your own fonts, how to make your own font with Inkscape, making emerging fonts with iCoMoon, and then there's also some other font makers here, FontStruct, My Script Fonts, and Your Fonts. So there's several your own fonts. I actually did this in Inkscape, and that's my my own tutorial there.
So people can make their own fonts. They can possibly even do their own handwriting letters, right?
Yeah, it's in Inkscape. It's kind of tricky to do a real alphabet because, well, I never figured out how to do the spacing between letters in Inkscape.
Oh, gotcha.
So some of these other tools, the Your Fonts, and some of those would be better for handwriting. But Inkscape is fine for a dingbat font where you're not too worried about the spacing and that kind of thing. I never quite cracked the code on how to do this. Inkscape has the ability, but nobody ever really documented it. So I had to do a lot of experimentation to get this far, and I didn't quite get far enough to do a real font with character spacing and stuff.
Kay, you should write a book and update the one that's from 1996. Is that right?
Yeah.
I took a look at that on Amazon today, and I saw those old screenshots of Mac Windows. Brought back memories of school.
Yeah. That's true. I actually wrote the first computer crafting book for adults back in the 90s, and it was.
And you had a computer back then.
I
Nice.
had a computer back then, and not many people did. Didn't go over too well in the bookstores. But if you bought a Canon printer somewhere in the 1999 2000,
It'd still be useful.
you got a copy of my book on CD in the box.
Oh, gotcha. Well, that's pretty cool. Or do you ever think about writing another one?
This crossed my mind, but I think there's some other people working on. I'm gonna stop this now. I think there's some other people working on books, and I wasn't my favorite thing to do. So.
Oh, I see. Gotcha. Leslie came up with this kind of question, and I think it gets into your DPIs. She said that she can use the preview screen, capture on a Mac, save it to PDF. Is that not a vector PDF? I don't know if she's stating that. So you still need to trace it.
Right.
JPEG.
Right. Silhouette and Cricut also, as part of their protection scheme to protect their images, does not allow you to. They don't use vectors to print, so that you can't capture vectors to PDF. Because if you could, then it would be way too easy to share the vectors. So they scramble it basically by making it bitmap. And what Silhouette does, not only do they scramble, or do they make it bitmap, but they segment it. It actually comes out in little bitty chunks, which has to be dealt with on the Mac. I have a video on that as well. Cricut also outputs bitmap, and they output a low resolution output. So that's how they are protecting their images. So no, you're not going to get a vector PDF from Silhouette Studio or from Design Space by print to PDF, and you will have to trace it.
Gotcha. All right. Not seeing any more questions. But if you guys do, feel free to post them down below. I know Kathy, she asked this question, but I just upgraded, but I don't really download fonts, and I know Kay, she waits until like Yosemite 10 until I guess she still considers this beta, and
right.
she doesn't want to have any of her programs not work just because she upgrades. So. I haven't downloaded any fonts yet, and
I haven't had any issues. I know every once in a while, like on DeFont, you'll get on the Mac where it will say there's an error with the font. Do you want to override? And I say yes every time. I overwrite everything. But so I haven't had any issues. I just downloaded Kay's font and it worked fine. So I'm not sure if it's just those complex fonts or if it's other fonts.
Vicky, she just posted, she's like, I'm loving this. She's like, I'm a font lover. I think she's having a fantastic time doing whatever she's doing. But yeah, very cool. All right. So is there anything else, Kay, that you got going on?
That's about it for tonight.
All right. Michelle's.
Oh, there is one piece of Silhouette news that I will mention.
Yeah, go ahead.
October 6th, there was an update, 3.3.277, which I may have mentioned at the time it came out. For the most part, it's been buggy and not great, but we do have one unannounced feature that we have discovered, and that is for the DE version, we have vector PDF import. So
that was not announced that you could be able to do that?
That was not announced. So what I want everybody to do is thank Silhouette for giving it to us so they don't take it out like it was an accident. Anyway, that's just fantastic. I mean, if you're used to, if you go to Martha Stewart and download a template, for instance, it goes right in. No translate, no convert to SVG first or any of that. You don't have to go through an online converter. You don't have to go through Inkscape. You just open it. If you do a template at templatemaker.nl, comes right in. Make the Cut already had this, and it's very useful because there's a lot of things that are in vector PDF format already, and Silhouette Studio did not have it. They did have they had PDF import, but even if your PDF was a vector, it came in as a bitmap and had to be traced. And like I said before, we just don't like tracing things that are vectors. We like to keep them vectors.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can do that. So I don't use 3.3.277 for anything else, but I do keep a copy on my machine just for that purpose because it is very useful. So to me, the very best feature of the program was one that was not announced.
Now, are you working with? I heard, I don't know if it's true. Are you helping Silhouette come out with the better program? I mean, like, are you like one of their main people that are like, hey, fix this?
I'm a self-appointed helper. I've not been. I have no official capacity. I've not been asked. I give my opinions freely to every company that has software. I can't help myself.
Good deal. Good deal. Yeah, Jerry just says she said love all the info, Kay.
Thank you.
So yes, like I said, Kay's very knowledgeable in what she does, and she does a great job of teaching. Her blog's amazing. All right. So I guess with no more questions, we'll try to wrap this up here. But we do want to go through some design team stuff that Michelle has over here. So I got the screen on her, and I'll let her show you what the design team has came out with. Go ahead, Michelle.
Okay. Our first project tonight is by Jenna. And this is a second series of letters that she's created. And she used the garden gnomes and the zombies and the wizards. And the garden gnomes can be found in the spring category. And the zombies and the wizards can be found in the Halloween category. And that's a close-up image of the letter B. And that one's from the wizards, that pattern there. And this project is by Jennifer, and she used the Carving Pumpkin Pals. And I believe she placed battery tea light candles behind the pumpkins. And this is what they look like lit up at night.
That's very cool.
And this next project is by Monica, and she created a lantern-shaped card, and she used the My Sunday Best file, and that can be found in the family category. And this next project is by Omar. He created a set of pilgrim napkin rings, and he used the Thanksgiving Pals, and that file can be found in the fall category. And also, if you go to Omar's blog, he has, if you go to awesomesvgs.blogspot.com and you scroll down to right here, he also has free SVGs for the napkin rings, and you can download them right here. And I'll put a link in the description. And there's what the rings look like, and he stamped them, and he also did some detailed work on the pilgrims. And you can read more about how he created his project on his blog. And this last project is by Shirley, and she posted this to the Facebook page, the ScrappyDew Facebook page. And this particular file she won. Once a week there's a pattern file giveaway on the Facebook page. And this is a little treat box that she created. And she used the Mummy Madness pattern file, and that can be found in the Halloween category. And that's all for the projects tonight.
All right. Yeah, Trace Alexia said the design team did a great job, as always. Very, very good. Had this question, maybe Kay can answer. This one right here. She said she tried downloading Inkscape on her Mac. Unfortunately, downloaded other free software that she didn't want. She's a fairly new Mac user and didn't really want all that freeware installer stuff. Any help would be appreciated. I don't remember freeware being in Inkscape version of a Mac, but I could be wrong.
I don't either. Inkscape.org is the place to go. If you're going somewhere else, you might run into trouble, but I've not heard of that problem from Inkscape.org.
Yeah, I do know that you have to download that something X11.
Xcode or X11, yeah.
Yeah, X11, which I guess they're phased out or something in order for it to run. It's just another download that you'll have to do. I think it's from Apple.
Yeah, I didn't get any other additional software either when I installed the program.
Yeah, so Inkscape.org, if you're going somewhere else, you're probably getting some malware. So just be careful. New Mac user, thank you for picking Mac, by the way. All right, going through any more. Lots of thank yous there, Kay. So everyone's appreciating your work. Okay, thanks for coming and teaching us all for that info. Yep, like I said, all these videos here will be put onto YouTube. Usually 5 minutes after we stop the broadcast, it automatically records and goes up. And subscribe to ScrappyDew. Subscribe to all of the people that we have in the description box here. All right, Christopher, you got anything before we head out? Oh, you're muted. I can't hear you. There we go.
The only thing that I think that I have left is I did just post the November card kit on my Facebook page, as well as it just was posted yesterday on the blog, and you can find out more information. Actually, I have an example of it here. You can find all that information. I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it because my lighting is terrible, but you can find out more information about that on my Facebook page. And to everyone that's watching tonight, I know a lot of people from the Facebook page came on. All of the final card kits were sent out. All 75 of them were sent out on last Friday, and we are already up to 82 for this month. So keep them coming. I like a challenge of getting them all done.
All right. We'll post your Facebook link in the event page.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, Ken. Any new? I know you got that dry chalkboard. So what?
Oh no, there's stuff.
You wrote stuff on there.
I did.
Right. Well, it's very small.
I am not sending out anything to anyone, so don't be expecting anything in the mail from me.
Usually you send your autographed photos. So.
Yes, my Cricut Explorer is currently signing all of my photos, and those will be going out very soon.
And I think Kate just got hers last week.
She did, yes. I'm sure she'll post a picture of it on her blog soon.
That's going to go. Yeah.
I just got my Craftwell, I think it's called an e-brush, I don't know, but I wanted to try it out because I really do like the ability to kind of use an airbrush, and this uses markers, so you can use sharpening markers and a whole bunch of markers. So I'm going to be posting a review on that because the HSN demonstration of it was not as best as I thought it could be, but however, so I have that video coming up, and I'm just waiting for the new Silhouette Cameo because I'm looking forward to posting some reviews on that. So.
All right, cool. I gave you the sign off last week. I'm gonna let Christopher give his sign off. Maybe he can make something magical. I don't know. What's your quote?
I don't have a quote, and every week that you say this to me, I forget.
You should pick one. Just pick one of your not so favorite YouTuber.
His quote should be, "I'm still working on that video. It will be up soon."
Yes, that is mine. Yes, I'm still working on that video. It'll be up soon. Please stop emailing me. That's my quote.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate Kay coming down and taking time out of her busy schedule to teach us all something new. So thank you, Kay. Thank you.
Welcome. Enjoyed it.
And next week we do have Amy Chamas, I believe, coming to the show. She's got the pen holder. She's got the engravers and embossers. So come to next week, and you'll see what new product she has to show you guys. All right? So we'll see you then, guys. All right. Bye. Take care.
Night.
Good night.